Hello everyone. Today we're going to be going over another unit that is practically a cornerstone to our playstyle, and another who is rising in the ranks the further we get into the edition. Either way, both are universally adored in our army as our flexible utility unit that never feels bad to take on the battlefield. Today we are covering both variants of the Sicarians. Heavily damaged Skitarii given a second lease in life through horrific augmentations and savaging of the brains of fallen battle line, similar to the Dreadnoughts, but far more freaky and nimble. These little bots have slender limbs and various changes to their bodies that give them the unique abilities from other Skitarii. There are two variants, the Infiltrators and the Stalkers, and both hold completely unique playstyles in the field, allowing a box of these guys to double in value on how you want to field your army. At base, the Sicarian profiles have higher stats overall than the standard battle line, particularly in their higher wound count of 2, their movement of 8 inches, and a toughness of 4. Their OC, like most elites, drop to 1, but the toughness increase and wound count allows their units to survive weaker strength 3 weapons with 1 damage, much like marine equivalent bodies. First we can start with the Ruststalkers, as I will need ample time to gush about my love for the Infiltrators later. The Ruststalkers are set on doing one thing, and it's to slice everything in front of them to as many pieces as possible with murderous intent. Our robotic scissor hands have seen a pretty nice glow up since the last couple of data slates, but Admech doesn't have the greatest melee support, and it's still a bit up in the air where Ruststalkers can be optimized the best as the stars of the list. The Ruststalkers come equipped by default with the Transionic Razor and Cord Claw, a profile with 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 5, with AP 2, and damage 1. Importantly, these weapons also come with anti-infantry 3 and less importantly precision, but it's still worth mentioning. Ruststalkers can also choose to switch out with Transionic Blades, giving up 1 AP and anti-infantry in exchange for an extra attack and devastating wounds. Not one is better than the other and largely depends on the matchup, making them flexible to cut down heavy infantry lists that would spam bodies like Terminators with the Razors, since they will always be wounding on 3s and can force invuln saves with their high AP. On the other hand, having 1 extra attack on every model and being able to push damage through saves with devastating wounds is a good way to make them more well-rounded into anything they might have to face, rather than making them focus primarily on infantry. These are also good when assassination secondaries are drawn, as their precision is worth noting at times. They can reliably cut up leaders to heavily debuff a squad that can prove to be threatening or score you VP. Jack from Art of War recently recounted a story where an Admech player managed to charge an Abaddon Castle and precision kill Abaddon quickly, taking a key part with their block of Ruststalkers. These guys can absolutely cut things apart reliably, but they are still rather fragile when left in the open and don't utilize cover correctly, even with their innate stealth ability. To allow these guys to close in reliably, they have the ability Optimize Gate, allowing them to add 1 to advance and charge rolls, increase to 2 if they are within 6 inches of Skitarii battle line, further propagating the importance of our basic troops. This can allow Ruststalkers to close incredible distances if things are set up correctly, with various buffs from detachments like Sicarian cohort, Halo Screed Battleclade, and to a lesser extent, the Rad Zone Core. Now, my beloved, cute, murderous, and screeching little pit droids. The Infiltrators are a must-take unit in our codex in my opinion. The Infiltrators are packed with abilities that make your opponent's life a living hell. To go over the less interesting part first, the weapons these dudes carry. The Stub Carbine is a decent little pea shooter with 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 4, and 1 damage with no AP. These can wound marine equivalents at 4s, and that's all there is about these really. The power weapon is a standard power sword, 3 attacks hitting on 4s, with strength 4, AP -2, and 1 damage. These can punch through things well, especially with the Conquer Doctrine of pushing the AP to 3 and the weapon skill to 3. This loadout is more about hitting up and hard, and good into a meta where tough things are in front of you. On the other hand, the alternate loadout is the Flechette Blaster with Taser Goads. The blaster has 2 more attacks over the Stub Carbine, with 1 less strength, and the Taser Goad loses 2 AP in exchange for 2 strength over it, up to 6, with the awesome sustained hits too. This loadout is my personal favorite, and allows a mass of attacks to go through, forcing minor saves that can chip your opponents away, seemingly far more reliable than the other loadout from my experience. Also, Taser Goads are just cool as hell. Now, the abilities of the Infiltrators, as the name suggests, comes with Infiltrator and Stealth. This makes a unit harder to remove and fits into detachments other than Skitarii Hunter cohort without the loss of the stealth ability. Infiltrators is a great ability to pre-position these guys aggressively onto points, whether within cover to increase your save, or outside of cover and still hinder your opponent's ballistic skill. The best ability of these guys, however, is a combination of voices in the code and neurostatic interference. Short little side tangent, I love these guys' aesthetics so much that I originally thought about calling my channel Voices in the Code, as if you're hearing this channel's information through the newsphere of the Infiltrators. Anyway, Voices in the Code force your opponents in engagement range to take a battle shock test. With these guys' guns having pistols, they can usually deal a hefty amount of damage if they are forced into melee, along with their own melee weapons. So forcing your opponents to come into them sitting on objectives can spell disaster for them, should they fail the battle shock test and be out OC'd by the Infiltrators and possibly exposed from a hasty charge. Additionally, this is at the beginning of any fight phase, which can keep these units locked into battle shock and doesn't allow the use of insane bravery, as the unit will remain shocked through turns, since that stratagem can only be used in the command phase. Now some of you might be thinking that battle shock tests are unreliable, and I would agree with you, but that's where neurostatic interference comes in. This ability forces opponents to take any battle shock or leadership test within 6 inches of them at a -1. This includes normal battle shock / leadership tests and the ones from the Voices in the Code ability. Additionally, if these guys are within 6 inches of a battle line, these tests are taken at a -2 to the roll. This is the point where a handful of units in the game will start to consistently fail battle shocks and can really put your opponents into a sinkhole of victory points from denying primary and secondary actions. These guys can be seen as just annoying bait with the Infiltrate ability, but can definitely bait your opponents into making greedy charges into points that they will get battle shocked into. It's also worth noting that the Infiltrate ability allows you to position these models in a way to deny scout moves from your opponents, protecting the backline of your deployment zone, or to counter other infiltrating units from your opponent's army. I cannot express how much tactical prowess will pay off with the Infiltrators. They have a use in every point of the game and can easily switch the lead from pre-positioning and battle shock tests. Also, I don't know if this is just me, but I've definitely seen it in other games and live streams. These guys just don't seem to fucking die. I've seen time and time again where all but one gets wiped and that last Princeps will hold back the forces from hell for way longer than he should. Personally, I've had a squad of 5 trade into some Lich Guard with an Overlord. They somehow managed to trade into each other with the Princeps and the Overlord fighting over an objective, and this Princeps lived for 3 turns in combat and battle shocked the Lord every time. My opponent saw no point in trying to allot more units to this one little Infiltrator, until time and time again he kept losing primary when it was too late. With these guys, it's really all about the mental damage for your opponents. Unfortunately, the Sicarians don't have a lot in forms of leaders. They actually don't have any at all, unless you count a nearby marshal using control edict on them to take them out of battle shock. I would really like to see some sort of support from them in the form of a marshal equivalent for the Sicarians, maybe one that allows advance and charge rerolls, or makes the unit -1 to hit, to make Protector -2 to hit and incentivize switching that to Krina more, or giving them -1 to wound and melee to make them a pain when they tie up an opponent. Overall, the Sicarians are a step up from the Scutari, increasing almost every aspect of their base stats and forking out to either murderous melee or packed with utility. Every list should have at least 1 or 2 units of Infiltrators in my opinion, if anything because they're so cool and adorable. I also encourage you all to experiment with Rust Stalker breaks as they're only becoming better over time, and I think that there's a place for them somewhere. I just think that it takes a lot of playing and a lot of experience to find out where. All that being said, that does it for this video, going over the Sicarians. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content and like the information I provide, please like and subscribe, and consider going back and watching some of the other videos where I cover more units and other aspects of the Warhammer community. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.